Hello and welcome back to the channel. Good morning. Today is the day of my 10-kilometer run time trial. The reason I'm doing a 10-kilometer time trial is because I want to update my functional threshold heart rates for running and my threshold pace for running. So I'm using the 10k time trial because it's a bit of a longer section and longer distance than a 5k, and I just feel like if you're trying to get that sort of stabilization of heart rate in the middle, you're going to need to factor in the lag at the start and then potentially it'll surge at the end. And with a 5k, that doesn't give you a huge amount of time to analyze in the middle. So the 10k is a little bit better to get a settling of the heart rate and settling of pace. So I like to use the 10k. It's also quite practical. You can get people to do it quite easily, and it's also something that gives you a little bit of a performance benchmark. So you know what your 10k PB is, and it gives you something to actually compare to with an actual sort of performance number. So it's nice to get that performance snapshot. If you're an elite runner, I would suggest if you're going sort of sub 40 down towards the 30-minute mark, you'll probably want to do lactate testing as well, and I actually have access to that, so I'll be able to confirm my numbers with testing in a couple of weeks. But for the most of us, who are going to be running between maybe 40 minutes to up to an hour and over, this is a perfect test to give you some pretty good guide of your training intensity, your training zones, and you don't need access to the lab. So the 10k is really ideal for that. And like I said, once I get the file at the end, I'll be able to edit out that final surge and that little lag at the beginning and take that sort of settling phase in the middle, which will probably end up being pretty close to my actual threshold when I test it with lactates later on. So I'm not the best runner. Running is definitely my weakest discipline. So for me, if I can get below 40 minutes, that'll be a PB. I'll be very happy with that. But like I said, I'm carrying old injuries from sports beforehand, which don't really help for running, and I'm not really a runner's build either. So those are my excuses out of the way. I'll be running them in my trusty Adidas Boston 8. I know there's a Boston 9 out now, but I've been running in the Boston 8s and I really like them. It's not a carbon shoe, so I didn't want to do this in a super shoe because I want to be able to use these numbers in training, and if I was doing it in a super shoe, I probably wouldn't be using the same shoe for training because I'll be saving it for race days. So that's why I'm going to use my regular training shoe, and it's a pretty good shoe. I've been always really happy with it. So follow along for the rest of the video. I'll show you my plan for the pacing, and then you'll get to see some of the run. Plan is to try and break a PB, which at the moment is somewhere around 41:20. Not spectacular, but it was done at the end of a race, so it wasn't too bad. The goal would be to go under 40. I don't think I'll be going under 40 by a long way, but if I can just dip under it, that's okay for now. Plan is to go off probably about just under 4 minutes per kilometer, probably about 3:50 for the first kilometer and a half, 2 kilometers, and settle back to 4 minutes and just like really settle on that, chew up a bit of mileage, and then see how I'm kind of feeling around 7 kilometers and just try and then drop it down and really try and see how much farther under 40 we can make it. Or if it doesn't work out, it'll just be a case of trying to hang on to 40 or 4 minutes per kilometer and just trying to break the PB. Either way, I'll be happy, but it's kind of hard to know without having done a race in a long time how fast it'll actually be. And comparing it to a race before that was actually a part of a full triathlon is also kind of difficult. So that's the plan. We've got a pretty flat course, pretty straight, pretty quiet. It's not very windy, not very hot, so really conditions can't be an excuse. The only real excuse is just that if I'm actually just not fast enough, which is quite potential. Like, I've not got the best running ability. Carrying old injuries probably don't help me being a little bit heavier, but as I said, if I can get it below 40, it'll sort of, I guess, pair nicely with where my strengths are, and I'll actually be quite happy with that. So that's the plan for today. So just doing a little bit of a warm-up now, trying to get a bit of heat in, and then yeah, we'll get into it and just try and stick to that plan as best as possible, and hopefully it goes the way I want.
When me And that brings up 5K, 19 minutes 40. Well done. Is that a PB today?
Yeah.
By a solid 2 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, I just sort of sat around 350 pretty much the whole time. A couple of 355s, but mostly around the 350. Didn't really have much of a kick at the end. It sort of kind of came up, but not massively.
So I didn't get much of a chance to really debrief at the end of the run because I wasn't really feeling particularly well, but things went pretty well. The strangest thing I found with this test was that after about 2 or 3 kilometers I felt really bad and genuinely didn't think I was going to finish, and certainly wasn't going to hold the pace. I got a little bit of a stitch and just did not feel great, but I didn't feel any worse. It never really got worse, so I was expecting, you know, if I'm going to feel bad at 3k, I'm going to feel horrific at 5 or 6, but it didn't really progress. So I actually was able to hold pace and sort of started to relax, and then actually settled down, and then paces actually settled into what I wanted them to be, and I ended up having a PB of, I think it was, in the end it was 39:03 once we sort of calculated it properly. So that was great. I was really happy. My heart rates were a little bit higher than I'd like, so I'm definitely going to be cutting out that sort of final surge, because there was a bit of a spike in the last 30 seconds where I really tried to push on looking for a PB, which is going to inflate the data a little bit, but overall quite happy. It was nice to see some progress and to hit the PB and hit the targets, but I have to say this test, it does require quite a lot of motivation. You know, you've really got to go for it and treat it as if it's a race to be able to actually push through to the end. It's a distance where you definitely can settle in, but you definitely feel the time sort of dragging along a little bit. So happy enough, and once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.